for the Peabody, I'm going to be doing the scoring for someone by the name of Abby. So here I put the test date and I calculated the chronological age, and then I also added in the prematurity adjustment component. So after doing all those calculations, the age in months is 21. When going through, something to note is that with the Peabody, if the child is over 11 months, you will not complete the reflexes section. This section, it's only for 0 to 11 months. If the child is younger than 11 months, you're going to do the reflex section, but you're not going to do the object manipulation section, because as you can see, it starts at 12 months. So if the child is 11 months and younger, you won't be able to do this section anyway. So since Abby's age in months is 21, we would start at the stationary section. I want to point out that there are 4 administration boxes on the cover of the Peabody testing booklet, and what this means is you're able to use this one booklet and administer the test to the same child and essentially track their progress with this assessment. There are columns that align with each administration as well within the booklet. All right, so now I'm going to go through the scoring for the stationary section, because this is where we would start with Abby based on her age, which is 21 months. I'm going to go through the basal and ceiling just to provide a firm understanding, and then the rules for the basal and ceiling and calculating applies to every section within the book. So based on her age, which is 21 months, you would start at item 19, because 21 falls within that age range. And let's say we start here and she gets a 2. We would then move on to the next item 20, and let's say she gets a 1. We cannot move forward unless we get the 3 2s in a row, which is our basal. So if she gets a 1 here, we're going to move back to the previous item, which is item 18, and keep working backwards until we get the 3 2s in a row. If she had started and got a 1 or a 0 here, we would immediately start working backwards until the 3 2s are established, and then we have our basal. So, like I said, she gets a 2 here at item 19. She gets a 1 on item 20. We haven't reached our basal. We're just going to start moving backwards immediately. At 18, she gets a 1. We still got to keep moving back. She gets a 2. All right. She gets another 2. And then she gets her third 2. Great. We have our basal. So now we can pick up where we left off, which is at item 20. Oh, no, sorry. At item 21. So she got her 1 here. Let's say she gets a 0. She gets a 0. She gets a 0. This is our ceiling, and this tells us to stop. If you got a 0, a 1, 0, 1, like you have to keep going until you get the 3 zeros. So then we reach our ceiling, and then that will be it for this section. And then again, the rules do apply to every section in the book. So in order to calculate the raw scores, which I've done here, you have to go back to each subtest section, and you're going to find that basal area. So here we have the basal. The basal was established with the 3 2s here. So you're going to go to the last 2 they received for the basal area, and you're going to multiply this item number by by 2. So you're going to multiply 17 by 2. The reason we do this is because we would assume they could complete every item prior to item number 17. So that would mean they would be able to move through each item receiving a 2. That's what we're assuming. So when you multiply by 2, you get 34. And then you're going to add each score they receive thereafter. So you have 34 plus 1, so that's 35, plus 2, which is 37. You have plus another one, so that's 38, and then they got 3 zeros thereafter, and then you stop. So the total score for this subtest section under stationary is going to be 38. And I do want to note that I put an X here under reflexes because, again, we did not move through this section because Abby is 21 months, so the reflex section only tests up until 11 months. So after you figure out or you calculate all of the raw scores for each section that you test, which I've done here, you would then move on to another sheet that comes with the P-body, which is the profile summary form. Here I've provided a screenshot of the actual profile summary form. As you can see, there's 3 different sections. I just replicated the second section because that's where a majority of the calculations are taking place. And then the other sections replicate the testing booklet and also includes some plotting of the calculated values. I don't have that, so I made my own little makeshift profile summary form. So here is where you would do all your calculations, and I'm gonna go through that in a minute. Okay, so the section of the profile summary form that I've replicated is section 2, which is called the record of scores. So here I have listed all of the raw scores for each section that I completed with Abby. So it's just simply transferring all the numbers from the test booklet listed on here and then moving it on to the record of scores. So there we have it. And then you're going to go to Appendix A in order to calculate your percentiles, and your standard scores. So you just find your raw scores, and then just convert them. Note that I did put X's all across the reflexes. Where is it? The reflexes row, because we did not complete that. Moving on from there, you would go to Appendix B in order to complete the quotients section. Here I provided a screenshot of the table that I used from Appendix A in order to convert my raw scores to percentiles and standard scores. In order to complete the quotient section, you would have to add up all the standard scores. So in this column here of standard scores, this is what is called the gross motor standard scores. So that includes reflexes, stationary locomotion, and object manipulation. So you're going to add up all of the standard scores from that section and you put it in the box. So I got a total of 28. Next, we have the fine motor standard scores. There's only 2 subtests that fall into that section, which is grasping and visual motor integration. So you have your 2 standard scores that you've calculated by using your raw scores, and then you're going to add up these 2 standard scores and you get 15. Lastly, we have the total standard scores. So this is where you add up all of the standard scores that you've calculated and entered into this box here. So we have 43. From then, you will use Appendix B in order to convert the sum of standard scores into quotients. So the gross motor quotient is 96, the fine motor quotient is 85, total motor quotient is 90. So just remember that you have to double check, triple check how you're adding up each standard score because it will affect all of your calculations thereafter. Okay, so using Appendix B, you calculate your quotients and then you calculate your percentiles as well. Here I've provided a screenshot of the table I used in order to calculate my quotients and percentile ranks from my sum of standard scores. This table can be found in Appendix B, and I do want to make mention of the fact that percentile ranks is found in Appendix B, while percentiles are found in Appendix A. Also, something that can be calculated using our raw scores is the age equivalence. So this table or these tables can be found in Appendix C. So you would just go through the table, find your raw score, and then find the aligning age equivalent row and just match from there. So based on our calculations, her raw score was a 38 in stationary, and then that works out to be 18 months. Here I've provided a screenshot of a table that can be found in Appendix C of the manual that is used to convert raw scores to age equivalents. Okay, so from here, you're pretty much at the finish line. You can use the quotient and subtest standard score interpretation tables in order to get a better understanding of what all of these numbers mean. So there's a table 4.3 that helps you to make sense of these quotient numbers. So this table is organized by ranges and then the interpretation of these ranges. So what you're going to do is find your minimum quotient value, which is in our case for Abby is 85. And you're going to find your maximum quotient value, which is 96. So our range is 85 to 96. When you look at the table, you just look to see where the numbers fall, depending on their ranges that they've predetermined. And then you will be able to know whether Abby's performing at below average, average, above average, and so on. So based on our range of 85 to 96, Abby would be performing at a below average to average performance level. As for the subtest standard score interpretation table, which is table 4.2 in the Peabody manual, you're going to do the same thing. But in this case, you're looking at the standard score ranges. So our minimum standard score is 7, according to, looking at all of the standard scores that we've calculated from the raw scores. Our smallest number is 7. Our biggest number is 12. So our standard score range is 7 to 12. When looking at the table 4.2, you're going to look at their ranges, look to see where your numbers fall, and you're going to formulate these interpretations. So based on the table, Abby again falls in below average to average range. So here I provided some screenshots of table 4.2 and 4.3 from the manual. These tables can be used to formulate an interpretation based on the quotient and subtest standard scores that you calculate. So like I said, you would just find where your scores lie within those ranges, and then you would be able to generate some form of interpretation of the test that you administer. So I hope this was helpful. Happy studying.